Welcome back to Superhuman Customs. I'm Stephen Human. This week we're doing an old image character. This is one of my favorites. We're going to turn this Joker into the Savage Dragon. Now, I loved Savage Dragon. He's the epitome of the 90s. And I had all of his issues up until, I don't know, like 60 or something like that. And then I stopped collecting. And I've kind of paid attention a little bit. You know, it's cool that it's told in real time, and that I think that the original Savage Dragon's now dead and his son is the lead of the cartoon or the comic. Anyway, we're going to make this Joker the Savage Dragon. We're going to remove the arms. We're going to use the arms from an Eradicator. Now, I know that's going to hurt a lot of you because you want an Eradicator, and I have an extra one, and I'm going to use it for parts. I know that that's disappointing, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to take his arms off, and we're going to take this coat off, and we're going to put him in that he's in his police uniform. That's what I want. And then we're going to milliput on this head, change it up so that he can become Savage Dragon. This is going to be great. Let's jump right in.
You guys know that I often change my mind. Well, I was going to use this guy's arms, which would be a travesty. I still don't know what I'm going to do with this guy, but I really don't want to take him apart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy apart. I just found him today for 10 bucks. My local comic book store is moving. And so I'm going to remove his arms. We're going to put the arms in here, which will be perfect. And then we're also going to use this head for Savage Dragon's head, because it's a much better head and it'll have the fin and everything. And this is the last little bit of milliput I have because I'm working on Stell, which is done at this point. And so this is all I've got left. So I want to work right now to get the head done on this guy so that I don't have to buy a whole new thing of milliput today in order to do this. So let's get crazy with this guy. So I've had them soaking in hot water. First thing we got to remove, this guy's hair, which I've done before. If you guys remember Omni-Man, this was the head and body I used for Omni-Man. So yeah, it's not as hot as I thought it was. And if it's not hot, then you just get more hot water and soak them for longer. And then the other thing I want to do is I want to remove this jacket because I want to see what it looks like. I think it's going to be too, his body's going to be too thin without it, but I want to see what it looks like because I want, very rarely oh, there we go. Oh, that looks good, I think. Let's get the arms on then. Let's see what that looks like. Now, before I figure out the arms, because they aren't going to work quite like this because there's a gap, so we'll figure that out in a minute, but I got to get this milliput used. So what I want to do is I'm going to drill a hole in this guy's head because I have a nail here somewhere. Where'd it go? Here it is. That I'm actually going to stick in here to be the front end of his fin so that it's a little bit more sturdy and I can build up off of this. Because what I learned in using the Wolverine and the Dark Claw is that when I had the ears for the Batman on the Wolverine, it worked much better in making the milliput stick. So we got a hole here. We're going to stick this guy into it. And that will act as the front end of his fin. I think that'll work. All right, and the milliput is already starting to harden, so I'm glad that I jumped on this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take it and I'm going to sort of lay it in between these two to begin with and then start molding. So I added the second one, as you can see. And I'm going to start molding it in place, however works best. And I'm going to need to concentrate on this, so just trust that I'm working on this and getting it so that it's not going to look too cruddy. All right, not bad. We'll let it dry and then we'll sand it down. But I've tapped it with my finger and smoothed it out. I think he's going to look like a pretty cool Savage Dragon. I'm excited. So I'm painting the hands and the neck green. As you can see, I had to go back to the jacket look. I just could not get the arms to work, even though Savage Dragon always had a really thin waist. It just wasn't working. So we're going to put him in his dress blues. So we're just going to paint his hands green. And then as you can see, we're moving on to the head. As long as I got the green paint out, I'm going to paint his head. And I'll use the magnifying glass and I'll get close to the eyes. And I'm going to try and just be as careful as possible because I'd like to keep the mouth and the eyes the way that they are. They look really good. And this face is just really looking like Savage Dragon. I'm very, very happy with it. All right, I got my magnifying glass and a thin brush. I'm gonna put on the eyebrows. I got the first one on. Ooh, that's thick, goodness. Maybe this was too thick of a brush. All right, well, you know, that's a really, I'm gonna have to go back over that with the green. The other one turned out really nice, as you can see. This one did not, okay. Well, he's got a really thick eyebrow. I'll just go over with some green and crisp that up a little bit. And then we move on to the suit and we'll put him in his dress blues. Before we move on to the suit, I'm gonna take my green shade and I'm gonna go over the top of this dull green. Because, I mean, this green could work, but like you've seen with the Green Lanterns and stuff, this just lightens things up. It makes it richer. So we're gonna do this with Savage Dragon and just make it so that his green is a little bit more of a lively green. Now I've looked at Chicago police officers in the real world. They have the light blue shirt and their dress blues, and then they have a navy jacket and a black tie. So that's all we're gonna do here is I'm just gonna paint using my powder blue that I've got here. It's not exactly the right color because it has in real life it's got a little bit more of a gray, but it's gonna look just fine, especially when this is the navy's over the top. It's gonna darken this up a little bit. So I'm just gonna go over and paint the shirt. And it's good that I cut this because I can get in here, and that's what I'm gonna need to in order to make this, you know, look really good. And then I'll glue it back in place once we're done so that it'll actually close the way that it would. But yeah, that's next step, going through and getting this shirt done. Before I get into mixing paint and getting the navy blue, I'm gonna stick with the simple stuff, which is just painting the tie black. And then we'll get into mixing paints and all of that good stuff because we're gonna have to mix the paints in order to get this right. So just gonna get this tie all black, and then we move on to mixing colors. And the great thing is that the jacket and the pants are the same color. I thought that one was navy and the other was black, that the pants were black, but no, the dress blues are matching. And so we'll just mix a bunch of paint and make sure that we have enough so that we can get this all done. So before we paint the jacket, I'm gonna glue on his badge. Now what I've decided to do, I've got this WWE belt from a figure I got a long time ago. I'm actually gonna cut off this right here. We're gonna paint the whole thing gold, and it will look enough like a badge that it will actually work really, really nicely. So we're just gonna cut it off and glue it in place. Never mind, I was actually able to pop it right out. That's even better. Let's glue it in place. When it comes to mixing paint, you wanna make sure that you're making enough, because you cannot go back and match the color. It's really, really hard. So I'm matching a dark gray with a metallic blue, and might wanna go a little bit darker, but that's not bad. Maybe add a little bit, yeah, maybe it's coming about a little bit too gray, but just experiment with it. I'll add a little bit more blue to it and see what we get. I'm not sure if this is going to be the right color, but I'm gonna use it for now and see what we get. I can darken it up a little bit with some wash if I need to. But it's looking pretty close. Maybe the gray was the wrong color to use. Maybe I should have gone with the black. But I've got this gray paint that I just have a ton of, and I was like, I'm just gonna use it. So it might not be exact, but it is pretty close. So I'm just gonna put on a nice thin coat over everything, and then we'll see where we're at once we've got it all covered. At that point, I can experiment a little bit. So I'm not too worried right now, even though it's not exactly what I was looking for. It's close enough for right now. Sometimes you're going to find things that even in the process of doing them, you wish you had changed. For example, I wish that I had just removed the arms and painted the coat independent of everything else. You know me, I like to keep my action figures together because taking them apart sometimes and then putting them together can damage the paint, even after I've clear coated it. And so I like to keep them together as much as possible. And this would have been super easy for me just to take off the arms and remove the jacket. And I could have gotten on the insides and stuff, but you know, now it's all wet and it's too late, and I don't want this paint to dry because once it dries, I'm gonna have to remix it and it won't be the same. And so I'm just doing what I gotta do. And when there's some slop over on the front, there's a little bit on the shirt, and I'm just gonna have to paint over that and fix it. But I'm just telling you guys so that if you do this, that you'll think about that before you start painting. Because I started thinking about it after I started painting, and it would have made my life a little bit easier. Not a ton easier, but a little bit easier. What I've decided to do is take a little bit of dark blue and just do a dusting over the top to add more blue to it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my game wash and go over the top to darken it up a little bit more. And I'll experiment first on the back and see if it's going to work. But I think that that will give me the color that I want, because this is just, it turned it out to be just a little bit too dark gray, not blue enough. And I think this will give me the look I'm wanting. So just going to dust it up, and then we'll see if the wash is even needed. And if it isn't, then we'll glue this back together, clear coat him with a matte finish, and call this guy good. So I'm thinking this blue is going to work without a wash. So I'm just going to take the wash and I'm going to hit just in some of these areas here, just to make things stand out a little bit. And then we'll clear coat him, and I think we'll be done. It turned out pretty good. And finally, I'm just adding a little bit of wash to the face, to just some of these areas up here, just to highlight some things. Just a tiny little bit. I got just a little bit on the brush. And it's not adding a lot, but just enough to add a little bit of highlight. That's all I want. And there we have it, Savage Dragon. This was a really fun one. I mean, I wasn't able to do exactly what I wanted with the replacing of the arms, but I do think that he looks good in the dress blues, and maybe I'll be able to do another one in the future and do a little bit better job with the head. He does have, like, it looks almost like he's got a skull cap on. I need to sand that down a little bit, but it looked like I'd sanded it down enough, and then once I got the paint on, and we've had issues like that before when we're molding these things, is that it looks like it's nice and smooth, and then you get the paint on and you can see the little edge. So it's just something you got to deal with sometimes. And again, at a toy distance, he looks great. If you're looking way up close and you got glasses on, you'll be able to see some of the imperfections, but that's okay. This is all about imperfection. This is about having fun and creating cool toys and cool characters for your shelves. So get out there and do it. Find stuff, pick your favorite character that you don't think you're gonna get a toy of, and make it. I'm Stephen Human, thanks for watching. Check out StephenHuman.com for all of my sci-fi thriller novels, and check out Quimblies.com for all of your board game needs with Cthulhu Wars and Planet Apocalypse, God's War, all of that stuff. I'll see you guys next week.